Hello. Welcome to Salt Circle Podcast. My name is Bank, and with me is Hen, your host.
Yeah.
Your
Smooth.
host with the most.
Real
yeah.
smooth.
We just talked about Magic in our last episode, and we're doing it
It's
again.
true.
we're
Yep.
doubling down, which is
Fucking
abnormal for
fight
us. Yeah. Fight you. This isn't your mono green Fight Club deck. Heyo references.
Oh. But in that deck, I do have the card Arena.
I don't know if that's the worst or best segue ever, but it happened, so here we are. We're
This
talking
week
about
we're
Arena.
talking Magic Gathering Arena, which just is still in closed beta, but they just dropped the NDA, so we can talk about it.
Or shit talk
Which is-
about it, as
Oh.
I mean, not entirely, but sometimes.
It's almost like it's still in closed beta, and they haven't figured everything out yet.
Yeah, it's weird
Some
that
of the
way.
things they might not figure out, but yeah, we're going to talk about that stuff. That's what we're here to talk about, and we might talk about some other stuff depending on about how long we go. This discussion takes. So,
Yeah.
just to start out, I'll just talk about some of the the other digital versions of Magic that have existed before now.
Mm-hmm.
Their attempts, their big first one, the big one is Magic the Gathering Online. It's sometimes called Moto, and I don't know why. Which is like full on straight translation of the paper card game to computers. It came out like early 2000s. Like it's been for a long time. Like before free to play was a thing, Magic the Gathering Online started, and you were like paying money to buy packs of cards to play them in this digital space. And the only translation was if you got one of every card in a set, you could like cash that in and they would mail you a physical copy of that set within like a certain amount of time. Like if it was too old, they weren't going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I got on that like right as it happened. Like fucking I don't know, bought some $20 thing that gave me starter access. Eventually, it was just free, I think. And that was like just cool because it was a way I could play Magic at any time. And I had a friend who gave me some cards. So that was like the first. It's like the first, but that's like that thing is old. It has its own issues. It can be cumbersome. It's only for hardcore Magic, but it does have the benefit of having the side market where
I was gonna say
can directly trade
it's
cards.
noteworthy that like there's an economy within it.
Yes.
And
Like,
it actually has affected real world economy kind of. With the there was what they call them, like ticks. Like that's the purchasing.
Yeah, you buy
thing.
you buy a ticket.
Okay.
It's basically a ticket. It's $1. It's one ticket.
Yeah.
It's
So
also smooth.
there's a format that came about on Magic Online called Pauper, where all the cards were commons, and it like became a thing, and it became a thing like in physical Magic as well. So now there's some common cards that have shot up in price because they're really good in this format that originated on Magic Online. So it comes back.
Yeah. And like I said, there was the format Vanguard, which it had started in other places, but like has some of the same the same kind of idea that led into Commander being formed. Was like people were thinking about with that format, and that was big on MTGO for a while.
Yeah. So Arena's goal is mostly
there's one other branch of Magic game I want to talk about. Like there are other Magic games
Duels of
like
the Planeswalkers.
But I want to talk about Duels of the Planeswalkers just because that was like the console version of Magic.
Sure. Yeah.
Where it simplified a bunch of the rules. You could only buy you would buy a product, it would give you some cards, and then they would sell like DLC packs with more cards. There was no like buying packs or anything.
But it included Jace as an Xbox 360 background.
Oh, yeah. So they would put out one of those a year. Also, it had the dumb thing of like being an annual game. So oh, now this one is obsolete and the next year's one is the one you should buy, like it was a sports game.
Yeah.
And I've played a bunch of them. I never loved them because of, again, it's not quite full Magic. Sometimes you could edit your deck. Sometimes it was not the full package that I wanted.
Yeah.
But it was neat as a thing you could mess around with on a 360 or whatever on a console. And then they did, what is it, Magic Duels Origins is the version that,
Yes.
so they put that one out on phones and on Steam. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, the big thing was it was phones. They've done a lot of those Duels of the Planeswalker games also went to phones. I think eventually it just became Magic Duels is like the one, which was the last one they made, and that was supposed to be, okay, we're done with this annual thing. We're just going to have this game, and it's going to be our Hearthstone competitor. Because that's the thing. Like, since the Planeswalker game started before Hearthstone, but Hearthstone kind of changed the game in terms of CCGs online. Like, Hearthstone is so big, so Magic has kind of been slow to catch up to Hearthstone. And Duels was their attempt, and it kind of failed. It failed.
Yeah.
Like, no, there's not kind of about it. It was the economy wasn't great. It wasn't the thing. Like, the biggest thing about it was playing a game was too fucking slow. Was like that was probably what killed it the most for me. Just like the way they tried to translate it didn't work. It wasn't fun enough. So, and the economy was bad. So Arena they've gotten, like, that team is gone. So that team that worked on all those Duels of the Planeswalkers, they've like hit the road. We're done with you. So we've got a new team building a new game from scratch, built specifically to play on PCs at the moment. Although it's being built in Unity, so they can port it to phones later. But
technically,
so there's a fresh
Chromecast or something. There's ways. There's ways.
Yeah. But so that's how they're thinking about it, as a full-fledged, full rules of Magic. We're getting in, all the latest sets are going to be in here, but it'll be a collectible carding game instead of a trading card game. So that, it will be like a Hearthstone competitor, but it will be full-fledged Magic the Gathering. Also, they're developing it with an interest towards streamers who play Magic the Gathering, because watching Magic Gathering online is not the most pleasant viewing experience, because it's fucking hard to read the cards. You kind of have to know what all the cards are. You have to know.
I don't consider myself like an expert Magic player, but I definitely don't consider myself super casual. I can't like, anytime I see one of those clips, I have to go into the comments and like look for the like TLDW. I can't. I fucking just don't know what's going on enough.
Yeah, I've watched a bunch of Magic. I mostly watch like Super League stuff where they have like top tier pros doing dumb tournaments or whatever, playing Modern. Currently is like the thing. I will watch that stuff here and there. I've been watching it more recently because I've been more into Magic recently.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not an ideal viewing experience. It's not great,
and it's like it's
probably even worse than when they film real life Magic, where they just like have a camera pointing at the table with the cards.
Top down. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like actually harder to read than that. And the way they do it, it's always glitching because like they're trying to fit the hand sizes, and like they've got better at it over time, but it used to be fucking rough.
It's still not great.
It's still not great. Yeah.
It's also like
tech issues about
Magic Online. It's definitely not very casual. Not casual enough, at least. Just because you have all the nonsense, like you still have all the buying and selling and everything. So that just, I think any form of Magic that they tried to do that still had that, it was never gonna be casual enough. The question that people have had though is, how are they going to do, if they're going to do old sets with Arena, and how that will be handled in the end, because you have shit that's like $500 or $600 in real life. Are you going to release some sort of like vintage Masters sort of deal for Arena, or are you just going to like, well, everything from X block forward we're doing, but nothing before. And if they do that, like, then what happens to old formats? You just don't have them really.
Yeah. So it's unclear right now. I will say when Magic the Gathering Online started, it started with Invasion, and the plan was just to move forward. Like, at first it was just, we have the latest sets and we're moving forward. But eventually they started doing vintage sets. They did like a whole Tempest remastered set at one point. Like, they've done digital only specific sets that incorporated old cards so that people could play other formats. Like,
Yeah.
it was the sort of the point was just, we want these other formats to be in this game too, so we need to have these cards in the game. So I could see them doing select things for specific formats, but right now all their focus is on
Getting
on,
the game
standard. Yeah, other focus is on making the game and figuring out how the economy is going to work at all.
Yeah.
is their current focus. But I know they want to do, and I know they want to get draft in there and limited. So, but standard and limited seem like the number one formats that they care about for this thing. And then other formats they're going to have to care about down the line because cards will rotate out, and that is unacceptable for a CCG where your cards are completely dead. That's not ideal.
Yeah.
It's a bad look.
So, I mean, I'm going to explain the economy, I guess, jump in if I get anything wrong. You start out, and right now, in closed beta, they gave how many packs? They just gave us like 3 more. I think they gave you like 3 of each of the 4 sets that are in.
To start, yeah.
And then they have, you have 10 starting decks. I think it's just each color combination, each 2-color combination. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then each deck has like a slightly different playstyle, focuses on different things. It's pretty nice for variety. And there's daily quests, which reward gold. I think I've been seeing anywhere from like 200 to 500. I don't know if
I haven't seen a 500 one.
I just had a 500 one, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Unless I completed 2 at once and I did not notice, but
Maybe. The most I've seen is 300. And it's 1,000 gets you a pack.
yes.
Basically.
Yeah,
From
1,000
any of the
1,000 for
4
booster.
sets that are currently in the closed
Yeah.
beta.
And then there is, I don't know, I've never capped it out, so I don't know if it has a cap. For each win, you get an individual card.
You get gold for and a card for the first 4. Then you just start getting a card.
Yeah.
It does cap out eventually, I think, but it's pretty high.
I got to like 15 or 16 or something, and it was still going.
It's like around 30 or something. It might cap out. I don't remember.
Okay. So a reasonable amount, I think.
It's supposed to cap
what
out.
it is.
The harder cap is you get a pack for
Booster.
every 5. Yeah. You get a booster pack for every 5 wins.
Up to 15.
Up to 15 wins for the week. It's your weekly rewards.
Yeah. And that's a is that like a Sunday or Thursday or Friday? I don't know what day it actually ends on. I haven't noticed.
Yeah, I think just Monday it seemed like it was.
Yeah, because I remember getting it, and that's right. Because I think I started diving into it more, like whatever weekend, this past weekend maybe or something, and then it reset like right away. So I was like, oh, it's a daily thing, but it's not.
No, it's not a daily thing.
Yeah, so there's that, and then there is a treasure chest that. So for Magic, as we've like explained in the last episode, as people might know, there's 4 of a, like you can have a max of 4 of a kind in a deck. So whenever you get a 4 of a kind of a card, like that's the max you can have, and you can just split those between decks. So once you get more than 4, it kind of like, I guess the equivalent would be like it just turns into dust or whatever thing in Hearthstone. Like it goes in this treasure chest, the treasure chest percentage goes up. Once that hit 100, is it all wild cards? I think it is.
It's a they've changed it a bunch of times, so I'm not currently sure what it is. I think the big one of the sticking points is it doesn't currently give you mythic wild cards. I know.
Yeah, and I think they're gonna change that. They have to in some way.
Yes. Well, yeah. So I'll also say the way the current economy is not going to be final because people are complaining a lot about it, particularly in comparison to what we've had before, but also just as it stands, it's not working. It's not enough.
I was just gonna shit. Yeah, you can't get mythic. So the wild cards are basically you get them at common, uncommon, rare, or mythic rare, and then you can trade them in for whatever card of that type that you want, just one. And you can't. The only way to get mythic rare ones right now is to get them in packs. So not only is it a mythic rare card, it's a wild card. So it's even worse getting one than normal. It's basically you're waiting for a very specific card, and that just
It's very hard to get a rare or mythic rare wild card.
that being said, I totally got one the other day. So
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah. The other thing is the thing is if you get one, that's one card in your deck.
yeah.
It's not.
And if it's and in the current standard, like people who want to play standard decks in this game, like you're having 4 of a kinds for rares, and in some cases 2 to 4 of a mythic. So
Yeah,
you're
like a lot of the. If you're building a top deck, it's going to be mostly rares and mythic. Like those are the cards that end up in a lot making up the bulk of a lot of the high end decks. So it's kind of annoying when you're wanting to play the the competitive format because there's no other way to get the cards you want. You can't. There's no dusting, strict dusting. If you get a card, you can't get it.
You have
to
that
get
card.
Some bone. Yeah, you just have that card. They decided they want people to be building collections. They don't want people to be dusting cards. So they've tried to balance that out with giving you more stuff, but they're not giving you enough. Like it's just too hard to get the cards you want at the moment.
And there is a problem
with,
with
and there's no way to get the cards you want because you can't even buy packs. So people are extra annoyed.
Yeah.
The people who just want the stuff can't even get it.
Yeah, and for the 1 card per win, that's like semi-fine-ish right now because there's 4 sets. How many sets are there in Magic? Like a trillion? like if they kept this
they put
economy,
out like 4 sets a year.
yeah, if they kept this like current system, you get 1 card from any of like 20 sets.
Well, I assume they'd keep it in like a card from standard or whatever.
You would hope. They also like put in standard sets and then excluded some standard sets.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, so right now it's definitely taking a bit of a dip from before the NDA lifted. But
so
yeah, people been
and another problem is reprints are just treated as separate cards. So there are some cards that have already been reprinted from one set to another, so you can have 8 of them for no reason. Even though they're basically identical.
Like they have to know. It's not even they have. They do know. There are some cards in Magic that just don't get used. There are cards in every set that will never see Standard, Modern, Commander, or Legacy, or anything.
Well, the way they talk about it, and the way Mark Rosewater specifically talks about it, is not every card is for everyone. Certain cards are for certain audiences. The problem is with this digital format, you're still collecting these cards that just aren't for the players of this specific game. Like there's nothing to do with crappy common that you're getting from in this game. Like you don't get to hold it. Like the joy of just having it isn't gonna be the same as having this physical thing.
It's gonna be that thing that you wish. Like, where's the hide card feature? Because I don't want to have to scroll through all the shit that I don't care about.
Yeah.
Like, it's just they're never gonna be touched, ever. So that's
they're just
frustrating.
It's not useful.
I do think this was something I forget if it's always been in. One of the big things in Magic is the stack and bluffing. If I'm facing someone who has 2 blue mana open and at least 1 card in their hand, that might be a counter spell. And if I try to cast something big, they might be countering it. The default way that, like, they also might just be holding a land and, like, bluffing the hell out of me because, it's mind games. It's that sort of deal. Yeah. But in Arena, how it currently works by default is if they have nothing to do, it just auto passes. Like, there's no... and you can turn it off. You can actually assume full control so that anytime you technically have priority, it lets you kind of hold. So that's nice. I also hate that feature because there's a lot of people who just are terrible with it. Like,
it slows down the game.
That's sometimes drastically so.
Yeah, so that's one of the things about Magic the Gathering Online that I both like and that makes it incredibly frustrating for people to play, is you manually set all your trigger points throughout the turn. So for each phase, you get to say, I want to stop the game on my opponent's turn, I want to stop the game on my turn.
Yeah.
And then it'll stop the game also whenever your opponent casts something or whatever, or attacks you. So that's that full control of setting all that stuff manually is like super nice when you're building a control deck, and it's like super frustrating if you're new, and it slows down the game incredibly if you're not being diligent about making sure those you're clicking yes to pass turn every time you actually don't want to do something or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a struggle, particularly because you're trying to make the game as fast as possible because you're competing with Hearthstone, which just lets you do everything super fast on your turn and then pass.
Yeah. And I think my biggest problem is, like, I like that. People need to learn that you can just tap control. Like, literally the control for enabling control is the control button. It's really simple. And sometimes it's good. Like, if you have a shitload of mana open, you're holding some cards, and it's my turn. Yeah, I get that. Like, you want to do stuff. When you're fully tapped out of mana, have no cards in hand, and no ability creatures on the field, and I'm playing my land for the turn, maybe turn control off and let the... like, you can do nothing. We both know that you can do nothing, and you're just putting me through this. And it's kind of miserable in that regard, but I haven't encountered too many people who do that. For the most part, people just fly through. And I don't care about bluffing. I want to play. Like,
yeah.
There's no bluffs to be had here.
Yeah, I mean, I've also seen people... I had a game the other person just sat there until they lost the game.
Yep.
Like, just complete time over.
I have not encountered anyone who has done nothing, but there was someone earlier today who played a land, played a creature, like, turned past to me, I did my stuff, went back to them, and then just nothing. Yeah, like, I could see them, because you can see when the other person is, like, highlighting cards. You can tell when they're looking at stuff. They were still looking at stuff. They just did it until they timed out, and I don't get it. But
I really like that feature of you being able to see what they're looking at.
Yeah,
because
so
it just lets you know they're there, or not, in some cases.
And that's another thing that it's like the inverse of auto passing. That's like a thing that in physical Magic, you're either watching their eyes very carefully, or they have to bite the bullet and ask to see a card to read it closely. So for the most part, there's way more of like, okay, they're checking out this land. Like, they know I have it, they have this. There's more information in that regard.
Yeah.
But
the thing about the like full control triggering abilities thing actually annoys me more when I have like a creature on the field that has an ability they can activate at any time.
Oh my god.
So suddenly I have to like pay attention enough for all this stuff.
Yeah.
And there's a way to you just click there's a button you just click and it will pass till your end of your turn unless the opponent does something. It's not like, but it's like a thing I have to remember. It's just, facts about Magic that are, it was not conceived into this format, so they have to figure out ways to stay true to that. But it's, it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's not ideal.
There is also something to be said about, like, having the stack in this form, because I'm sure it's good in Magic Online as well, But
Yeah.
I've already learned stuff about the stack, like, okay, this is a thing that actually happens. I don't think I've ever done it incorrectly, but now I can see it working, and that's nice.
No. I learned a lot about the stack from playing Magic the Gathering online.
Yeah.
Like playing enforced rules versions of a game this complicated is super helpful for like learning certain things and just understanding like the mechanics of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's one of my favorite things about Magic the Gathering Online is how much I learned from playing it, just because all the little rule enforcements were so strict and stuff.
Yeah.
Just convenient.
I also like the timeout, going back to the timeout feature quick. That was not a thing that was in there initially, and it's so appreciated. Cuz there were people who like they don't have time as an object. They have all the time in the world, so get into game, do nothing until other person concedes. I have my win. So that was a godsend. The only thing
that was just a mistake that existed without that. But
yes, yeah. Yeah, in its current form, I'm fairly happy, but also the economy doesn't bother me as much because I don't care. Like, I know there's at least one more wipe coming, so whatever. I'll play with whatever jank I happen to have.
Yeah, that's fair.
I did want
the thing about it I don't love is that you can kind of commit to one deck and then you can't do. It's just like you don't have the variety. You don't have like the option to then build
you're committing
another
to
deck that's
a
at
deck,
least
yes.
Yeah. It's not great, and just the amount of which your new cards you're getting is so it just feels tiny. Mm-hmm. No matter how much you play.
Like I don't, and some people have said like you should always be able to earn a pack a day, and I don't think I've like the equivalent of a pack a day, and I don't think I've never had trouble with that, because between quests and then the weekly like wins to get packs, like I mean,
yeah.
I guess if you're really garbage, you're gonna have a problem with that, but
yeah, if you can't get a win,
if you just cannot get a win.
And that's the other problem, where there's only like ranked or whatever in the game right now. So if you theoretically, if you play a good deck and win a bunch, but then you get a quest to play a different color combination of deck, and you can't get your wins with that deck to complete that quest, that can be annoying. Because there's no like casual format. But that's just a current problem.
Speaking of ranked, I've seen at least one person who said they're like how that currently works and how the quests work and everything. They've been, and again, I think this stems from like lack of attachment. Like people don't care about their ranks right now, I assume, mostly.
Yeah.
And this person was talking about how like, if you win too much, you rank up and then you like go against other people who are going to give you a harder time. So occasionally I will just concede like 4 times in a row to keep myself low and like get my wins quicker, and then keep myself.
The thing I found is that the game hasn't seemed to care about my rank. Like I still get ranked just against random people.
I get
I got into silver and it's just still bronze people getting paired against all the time. It's fine. It hasn't actually been as much of a problem as I thought it might be.
But
after I went on a winning streak.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing. Like the thing I know, I like playing this. Holy shit, the amount that I concede. Like, okay, sir, you have taken more than 30 seconds to decide what to do on turn 2 with 1 mana. Like, I'm done. I don't have time for this. Time is money. I don't got any.
Yeah, I haven't been that aggressive about conceding, but I definitely am like, every time I'm facing a blue counterspell deck, I'm like,
well,
I could just concede here and save myself some time. Like, it's just, man. It says no for a while, and then maybe, and then the game happens. But.
And it depends. I had a nice. I mean, it has to come up now. I had a nice win against a counter deck or like a counter spell deck, because I played Ravenous Chupacabra 3 times in a row. Just the third one comes down, they were out of mana, and they just conceded, and it felt good. So,
Yeah, no. I mean, that's the
Stuff can
thing.
happen.
You can. It's not like those decks are unbeatable. They're just their games are so much longer.
Yeah,
It's like,
no, it's
okay,
gonna be
guys.
deeper. And apparently that's been a thing too. Like, there's been people who've just like, I'm going to build a mono blue all of the counter spells deck, and just literally like no win con. Just I'm going to counter everything until you rage concede.
Yeah,
So
which I don't get, just because the way this format works, you just want to like. I feel like building aggro decks makes way more sense. Just like go fast, get through these games.
I mean, some people just also like it's also worth.
I
Being
mean,
an
some people-
asshole to
some
them,
people-
I guess.
Yeah, some people like being an asshole. Some people don't like winning through aggro decks. Like different people have different opinions on stuff. As someone who's pretty adaptable to whatever form, the aggro decks I feel like are good for this format, this game, this particular version of Magic.
I'm also like my 2 big things that I've been looking forward to. The friend, like I've really wanted them to do the friends list or have that ready by the time the NDA lifted. Because
Yeah.
like I want to play with people. Like I want to be able to go against people. That's part of what makes Magic fun for me. Like that's like I
totally.
don't care about going to a tournament and facing random people. I want to play against my friends and like call them a piece of shit when they when they counter stuff. And then like I want to have that aspect. So I'm kind of sad that's not in yet, but it'll be here. And then drafting. That's the big one.
Yeah, drafting is like where this game's gonna live and die, I think, for me, is if they can copy that. Which, because it's something the Duels deck never attempted, and that they've said is going to be a big part of their focus on this eventually, once they figure it out.
Because I mean, I think what my biggest draw is that everyone's on an equal playing ground. Like, if I go into ranked, there could be someone who threw $200 at the game. And I mean, it's just like real Magic in this sense, but like,
Yeah, no, totally.
it's a thing.
That's why I loved what I like for Magic Gathering Online is I liked doing draft and sealed. Like that's mostly what I do there, other than occasionally like playing casual decks. That's the most fun. And a way to do that in a free to play game where I could do that at a more regular pace more often is the dream.
Yeah. The only thing that people have brought up is, since wild cards are such a huge part of being able to get what you want, how do you handle that in a draft pack? If you put if you put them in boosters, right?
Yeah.
Then you have less cards to draft with. Do you add them to boosters? Do you make it like a draft booster and then a chance of wild cards?
Well, the big thing is the draft boosters are going to be, the 14, 15 cards that a normal pack is. The packs that you normally unlock in Arena are not that many cards. There are fewer commons and like one less uncommon. It's like it's purposely less cards, and they've said when they do draft, when you buy it to draft, you will get packs that are the regulation size for drafting.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, they've been
good.
They're explicit about that.
But still, what do you do with?
I mean, it's just
just
if
keep
you're
what you
playing.
draft and
If you keep what if you keep what you draft, that's it's a whole different thing.
So I wonder if it will end up being like keep what you draft, and then prize support is just like normal Arena boosters in some form.
Yeah, and I will say on MTGO they do both. You can do a form of drafting where you're just buying in with points, like they call them play points, and then if you win more play points to buy in again.
Okay.
But so they could do a version of drafting where your reward is not keeping the cards you're drafting; it's something else. It's getting a wild card or getting some amount of gold or whatever. Because that could be a way they'd go to.
Like, that's a thing, and I mean, it's one of those things that every store will do differently almost, but like at my game store they do a very nice a redraft. like everybody generally gets something. You put out all the rares, mythics, foils, and money cards, like if there are any, and then whoever won gets to pick first, second, and so on, and you just go until all the cards are gone. And sometimes only the winner gets like a $3 card, and I've been a part of a draft where there was $12 cards at least like 14 deep. It was great. But I suppose it's possible to implement that, but it probably will not happen that way, I'd imagine.
Yeah, that seems unlikely.
Yeah.
Generally on MTGO, you win packs if you win games, and you keep all your cards you draft.
Fun non-Crump anecdote for once.
Holy shit.
Apparently, the game store that's in like the local game store in town, literally before my friend Mike got there, their entire system was different. And I feel like I've talked about this before, and I feel like I've said I felt like I've talked about this before.
I don't remember the story. I could say.
Well, them like, I'm having an incredible sense of deja vu. I don't trust myself. I need someone to, God damn it. No, this is all, I've had this conversation with myself. Basically, they were like, they would combine redraft pools or something. Like prize support was shared between draft pods, even though like the pods are separate for who's playing who. And then they just put all of the rares and stuff in a big pile and like did all this weird shitty stuff. And then like my friend Mike ended up moving to town and like told him, you guys got to stop this. Like this is, it's not illegal in terms of the game, but like it's gonna shit on you at some point because it's not good. Like if someone in draft pod 1 is doing great and they're super excited about that $50 foil mythic whatever that's in their pod, but then the guy in the other group does better and they didn't even have a chance to like fight for it. Like anyway, it's my draft horror story.
I mean, again, I can't imagine doing a redraft at any of the events I've been to. Also, or any of the physical events I've been to, just because way too many people and mostly like all strangers. Like, just way too much. Also, I would feel so bad about having to do that.
Yeah, I mean,
having to turn in my cards. I think like one of the tournaments I'd gone to was like the first year they weren't doing redrafts on stuff or at one place, but
and they
I've never done that.
They'll do the occasional like keep what you draft, and especially for like the Masters sets and everything, it's almost 100% keep what you draft unless everybody for some reason unanimously decided to not do that. But yeah, so whenever draft hits Arena, that like I'm really enjoying it now, but that's gonna be one like it fucking takes. Especially if you can join drafts like like if me and you could hit up a draft, like that'd be fucking great. Like that's what I want, because drafting with friends is even better than just playing with friends.
Drafting with friends seems unlikely because you can game it. So.
I don't know, and I don't even know how you would prevent that either.
You would just have to queue at the same time and hope you ended up in the same pod. That would be how it would work. I would assume.
Probably. Either you draft like kind of a not necessarily how Hero League works in HOTS or anything, but at one point wasn't it like all or nothing? Like you know, just certain, okay, if there's 6 of you and you can find 6 or 5 other people to draft with you, sure, go for it. Because if you're all in a party, then whatever. And if you don't have anyone, like then you have to go. Like you can't just do 2 of you in a draft. You're not fucking the system that way.
HOTS Team League used to work. I will say that Magic Gathering Online has over time shifted entirely to a league system where they used to just have a queue you could get into for individual pods for draft. Like, so as soon as it hits 8 people, it pops off. You 8 go into a draft, and then you play your little tournament to see who wins. They don't do that anymore, really. It might be in there a little bit, but I think it's mostly eliminated. Mostly people don't do it. The thing it does now is when you join a league, you'll draft with 8 people, and then you'll go into a greater pool of everyone drafting that same set, and it'll match you against just someone else.
Okay.
And that's how it does it. And I feel like they might do Arena that way, just because that's much easier for online matchmaking and
That's
people's
fair.
time. Because the other advantage of that is you don't have to play all these games right now. You have whatever until this league ends, which is going to be like months to technically finish your games.
Mm-hmm.
So you can play it entirely on your own schedule, which is a super good idea, I think. Now that I didn't like it at first, but the more I messed with it a little bit, and now I'm all in, just because it makes so much more sense for allowing people's time and being able to play whenever you want.
Okay. Yeah. No, it's also just, I don't know. It just feels odd right now. I guess especially I just thought of it now as I was talking. How you play one game instead of 3, which is the usual. And they've said they're gonna add a mode where there's like a best of 3, but
yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Single games is kind of weird for Magic because again, Magic is mostly best of it matches because sideboarding is such a big thing.
It's a huge thing.
But in a game where I can't get the cards I want, I don't care about sideboarding. I don't have the cards to sideboard. I don't even have the cards for my deck.
75 cards to play with.
I think that's the real feel bad about how it's built is it's only currently is just only the single competitive game thing is in, but then you can't get the cards for the competitive thing. You can't get the competitive cards. Whereas if it were just casual fun times or whatever, you can play your casual fun decks or whatever, your dumb stuff. It's just it's slightly at odds with itself just because of the constraints of just having everyone in one queue for the purposes of testing.
Yeah. I really want there to be more re-rolling for quests.
Instead of one per day.
Well, yeah. Is it 1 reroll per day? That's all it is?
Yeah.
Okay. Because, yeah, it's either that or just maybe don't do, color-specific quests would be nice. Or maybe make it, 3? If you made it, 3, you'd probably be able to, way more often be able to make it work. But, yeah, it just, right now, with how it's limited, it just feels... I have a red-white quest right now. That's not happening. The only deck I have that's even good is green-black, so that's just out.
I will say, I'd been doing black-white, and I got a black-green quest, and I was just all right, I'm just going to try and do this, because it's 300 gold. And it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
No,
but that's partly because I think...
Totally fine.
But I didn't really even use... I switched decks completely.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it had to be a black-green deck instead of a black-white deck. It wasn't win with a black or green deck.
Oh, okay, got it.
I just switched decks entirely, and even playing that deck wasn't using any of the black cards from the other deck. But I think that's more a function of, I think black-green's pretty good, because those explore cards.
Black-green is so... I'm loving that deck.
Yeah, so that was actually not that bad. It was surprising. Consider the deck I'd spent all the time in and all my wild cards on.
Yeah.
And then I switched to this black-green deck, and I win 2 out of 3. Wait, really? This deck I've invested nothing in. So that kind of fun can happen, but that's
I was
really
exception. Glad that there's going to be at least one more wipe, because I burned all of my wild cards that you're given initially on that shitty blue-red burn deck.
Yeah, that's the thing I
fucking
really
terrible.
Hate is it feels so bad to spend your wild cards. They're so hard to get them again. Like even common wild cards, common wild cards is fine. Uncommon wild cards are also kind of brutal.
I haven't had any issue with uncommon. It's been all rare and mythic. Well, even if
Yeah.
like rare is.
Yeah.
I don't even need
The
that
weird-
much mythic stuff, but
Yeah, no, I mean, there are specific decks that need a lot of mythic, but
yeah,
rare
right now
can
I'll
be
take
just
what
as
I can
hard.
get.
Yeah, no, that was, I mean, in one of the other ones, I think the last version of the economy, like, mythic wild cards, that's fine, no problem.
Yeah.
Rare wild cards, god damn it. I need rare wild cards just to build lands. Like, I want better lands.
And I think, yeah, no, it'd actually be interesting if they would allow it for some reason. I don't think, I think it's fine as a feature, but I think it would be a pretty niche case is like, let me use my mythic rare to craft a rare. Let me use my rare to craft an uncommon, that sort of thing.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, sometimes you just like, there is that weird case of like, I need 2 rares and I have a rare and a mythic. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, because it's just like, what do I need right now to make this deck better? And translate that from what they give you is like, it's just it's not simpatico. It's just at odds. And I mean, Hearthstone has a lot of these same problems, I will say. I've found Hearthstone's economy incredibly frustrating. Is the reason I don't play more of it. But I at least understand the strength of it, and Hearthstone at least has the thing where all of its cards are designed specifically for Hearthstone, whereas not all of Arena's cards are designed for Arena, because Magic is kind of not a game. It's a set of cards that is then slotted into a bunch of different games, so different cards are only really useful for different games, basically. With limited being the most focused on. Like, that's the one they really care the most about when they design the set, is for drafting.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
The
Like,
draft environment, so
There's cards,
that just when that's in there, that will make a huge difference, because that's...
and I've seen that a lot more. Like, why is this card a mythic? It's garbage. Yeah, but in limited, like if you open it in a draft, everybody gets fucked. If you put it in a standard deck, it's garbage, or any deck for that matter. But I don't know if this would be too much, but instead of getting a card for every win, if you got like a wild card at their rarity level, you know, like you have more of a chance to get a common than an uncommon and so on. I don't know. I don't know if that'd be too much, but in a game that I think there are very, well, I shouldn't say very few, because I honestly don't know. There's probably a healthier mix than I think, but for the most part, people enjoy having more than one deck. Like, people are going to want to have different decks, because if someone really likes Control, they're not always going to want to play it every single time. And what happens when more sets eventually come out, and then the meta shifts and your deck is garbage and you have to build a different one?
Yeah, that's totally a thing for me, where like in games with grind, getting through, if the grind for this one thing is too much, I'm annoyed, because then I never want to start the grind for this other thing. Like in WoW, I liked when the grind was less, because then I could just start a new character if I wanted to like get on that train again or whatever. But like if I have my main deck that I'm building, I would like to get close to be done with it, so then I can start another deck. Like, I love building I like building different decks, and
I've noticed.
I've been going ape shit on the building EDH, just designing EDH decks, and when I can't do that, I get frustrated and lose interest. Like, my whole problem with the Planeswalker, the Duel of Planeswalker games, was you weren't really building your own deck that much, so they were boring. So it wasn't nearly as fun.
And I think it's also...
Although you can have fun just playing a pre-con. That can be fun too. But
I don't know.
Depends on the environment.
I was going to say that they should have like a testing mode where all the cards are unlocked, but then people would just play that instead of anything else. But some way to
I find it weird the way they're currently doing it, with how few cards they're giving people, because there's so little to do with them. Like, some of the problems that exist in the way the economy works now wouldn't be a problem if there were other stuff to do with the cards other than just play this one competitive queue.
Yeah.
So it's not completely a fair test. Like, it's definitely, people are going to be harsher on this, and I feel harsher on this than maybe I would in a different case, although I'm always going to want more. Always going to want more. So they have to...
I just wish there was a way to, like, do whether it was a test mode or a goldfish thing or even just, like, an AI match somehow. Like, anything would be fine. A way to test a deck after using your wild cards. Like for that one shitty burn deck I had, would have loved to have like, okay, you crafted your shit, you get 3 games, and after 3 games you have to like have a yes or no question, like, do you want to keep the shit that you crafted? Yes or no. And I would have been like, hell no, this is ass, and I made a mistake. So at least
the
or
instant
something to
feel
see.
bad.
Yeah, because or like if you misclick, if you just or you're zoning out, and you thought you had the right card selected and you didn't. Like, well, I wanted this mythic, but I didn't choose it, and here we go. Like, I guess I have this one now. There's no, you have the confirmation, but like, whatever.
Yeah.
What's ever stopped anybody?
Yeah, I know. And it's just like, I got a rare, but it's not a rare I care about. Mm-hmm. Oh, well. Like, the amount of grind for a rare that you're just never going to play is like, well, there's just a lot of trash in Magic. And it's like, when you're making it such a like streamlined thing, that stands out all the more. Mm-hmm. Whereas in different environments, it's fine. It's not a big deal. When I'm playing Commander, it doesn't matter that there are lots of cards that are useless for Commander. Like, that's not important. Mm-hmm. Most common cards, not like worth looking at.
And in like I'm trying to figure out how to word this, just because like I'm thinking about all these cards that are garbage, and it's like any constructed format doesn't really care because you can just ignore them if you you can generally just ignore them. But like limited, there are those cards that every time will, like, unless it's a person who doesn't know better, they will make all of the rounds at the table. Mm-hmm. So it's just, and that's what like you're forced. It's almost like being forced to take those. Yeah, like
I don't know. There's my other thing I'll say about Arena is if you compare it to Magic the Gathering Online, Magic the Gathering Online is still like, even if I wanted to, like, say you just want to build a fun deck from scratch, way better use of your money. Like, just like to build a deck that you want for cheap and just play it for fun. Like, that's super good, except that the interface is bad and it's like an ugly experience. So like, I feel like for this, because the thing we haven't really talked about Arena plays well. Like, it plays better than those Duels of the Planeswalkers games.
We've been shit talking quite a bit of things, but like as a game and as far as playing Magic Digital goes, it's great. Like it does play really well. I really enjoy how
it moves better fast. It's way better than the Duels games.
Sometimes like I'll like, so there's a feature in Arena that's really nice, like 9 times out of 10, and the 10th time when it's not nice is because the user is an idiot. When you can cast stuff and it automatically taps your lands.
Yes.
And you had mentioned this, like sometimes you cast a thing and it taps the lands you didn't want it to tap and you didn't notice, and here we go. Like, but that's totally user error. Like, I like that as a feature, but ooh.
Yeah. Occasionally it will get it wrong, and then you can't cast the second thing you wanted to cast.
I'm like, you couldn't
which is
see
infuriating.
That I had a black card in my hand, and he decided to tap all my swamps for this like 2-draw. Like, okay,
that's super. That's super tilting when you accidentally screw up on when you can respond to a thing in combat.
Yep,
is also super tilting. Just because sometimes it's not clear when's the last point I'm going to have to respond.
Yeah, and there's
whatever.
definitely some stuff that's like you have to learn it. Like for some reason, and I'm like I don't know, I got stuff confused in my head. Like the almost the first game that I ever played in Arena, like swing out. I'm like, oh man, I have this burn spell. I'll kill this creature that's blocking mine. I'll like do damage to him. Doesn't work like that. You, so, but there's
Nope.
stuff like that that you just okay. Well, this happened and it fucked me over. Not gonna happen again. At least not in the next 10 minutes.
You know.
But no, overall, I really enjoy it. Like for the
Yeah.
gameplay and everything.
And
It's
and
nice.
the one of the other reasons I want it to be good is it can be a thing for me to point people to if they want to learn Magic, like
Yeah,
because
yes,
that's
the
because
free to
again,
play.
Magic Gathering Online was a huge thing for me learning the correct rules to Magic.
Yeah.
Like I've said before, I spent many years playing Magic very wrong, just because I didn't know any better. So having a digital version that enforces the rules for you is super good for new players.
No,
And
it's
an
very
accessible
good.
free to play version, that's huge. Like it's again, Magic has needed its Hearthstone equivalent for a long time. They've been slow to make a version that's actually good. So this is still looking pretty promising.
Yeah. No, I have faith that they'll fix it and at least fix it enough to make it like fine
Yeah.
because it's not, it's still very much in beta and people have been bitching a lot about the things that are worth bitching over. So,
Yes, the forums are full of people complaining about the economy at the moment.
yeah.
because
And actually
it's not.
they did release a thing. Like they had a little statement that was like, "Yeah, we hear you guys. Like we'll
Yeah,
dig
we
back
know.
into it."
Yes. I mean, Magic's PR, very quick to say, we hear you. I will say. Not always that they'll do stuff about it, but they do they know what people are saying. They do a lot of polling and research about any decisions they make. They have the resources for that. They understand.
yeah.
They understand their audience overall probably better than anyone
Except for the
else.
reserved list. That's a whole
Yeah.
other thing.
Look, and they'll print cards that they don't realize how broken they are all the time. Also, I will say.
Yeah.
It's- Sometimes you look at a card like, how did they not? What are you doing, guys?
Or just even yeah, I don't know. Like I'm just this standard season has been like there's so many banned cards. Stuff keeps coming out of the woodwork. But yeah, so do you think there's going to be like a full standard format in Arena or will it kind of just be its own constructed beast?
Their goal is to have all of standard.
So like a
said.
full keeps up with standard and adheres to the ban list.
Yes. Keeps up with standard, adheres to the real ban list, and moves forward in time from there, and figures out older formats as it moves forward.
See, if
That is their goal.
If I had a way to play standard that didn't involve dropping like $400 on a deck, that's how you get me
Yeah.
to play standard. Like,
Exactly.
I'd
Yeah,
totally do
totally.
it if I even. I mean, not with this not in this economy. No one
Yeah,
can
no.
afford that.
No, that would be like on Magic Gathering Online. Occasionally, like a standard mono red deck would pop up that was like okay that I could get for like $20 or whatever. Like very occasionally, and that would play some standard for a while.
Yeah, do it up.
But
Also,
just like without the super expensive sideboard cards or whatever.
as a draft like part of the thing that I liked about draft in Magic Online. Okay, I liked the concept, but because watching Magic Online is terrible, I didn't like it that much.
Yeah,
But, like,
it's
just
basically
having-
like here's the name of all the cards, and if you know them and can recognize them
Yeah.
by the tiny art, then you know.
Yeah, but like, I don't know. I was over at like my friend's house, and a bunch of like guys were there, and like we were all just chilling. And after a while, Crump is like, "You guys want to do some Magic drafting?" It's like, yeah, sure. So he like hooks the laptop up to the TV, and it's like a group draft. then Crump's
no,
piloting the deck,
that's-
and every time he fucks up, everyone,
That's one
Like,
of one
it's
of the
so
most
good.
fun ways to draft on Magic Gathering Online is to get together with a group of people and like group
it's
do
so
it.
good.
That is definitely a thing. That is, it's always super fun.
So I'm like,
It's also
I'm
super
all
fun
in
when
on
you're
that.
the person who's not spending the money. That's the
Yes.
best.
Yeah, when you're the one who's like, yeah, man, take it.
Yeah, when you're like, yeah, go for the high risk, high reward play. It's not my
Yeah.
fucking money. Yes, that's definitely a thing.
There was a. I just remember like the first time I ever saw it, like it was great. I just sit there watching, and then Crump like misclicked and just fucked himself so hard. Everyone starts giving him shit, and he's like trying to defend it, like it was the game. And we're like, dude, we're all like, you're on the big screen. We all saw it. Just,
Yeah, no, there's a
so
funny like
good.
watching Super League, which is stuff they do on like they do MTG running tournaments on MTGO with like former top Pro Tour players, or top or even current top Pro Tours, and occasionally there's just someone who just has not really played much Magic Gathering Online, so they're like
they just have no
just
idea.
being super slow because they don't want to fuck up.
Yeah.
They're just terrified of clicking the wrong thing.
And see, that is nice.
And then
like,
and then occasionally you'll watch someone who's like played this one deck over and over, and they're just like lightning fast,
flying
because-
through, yeah,
just
yeah.
like super quick, and it's just super cool because if you the thing I like about that thing is if you get your hands around it, it can be the best version. It can fly fine. It's like it can like explode, and you're just like, there are wires everywhere. What am I doing? You're like tangled up in Christmas lights or whatever.
I was actually just because in Arena everything is pretty. It's very. There are big orange and blue buttons. It's all very clearly laid out. But even aside from like how the style of the visual style of the game is in that regard for like ease of use, like I like the little touches that they put in on like the mythic rares and stuff. Like you lay a mythic down, little dude pops up and he like meows or roars or whatever the hell he's gonna do.
Yeah,
Like,
the
if they
cat's
keep-
meow.
Yeah, if
So
they
good.
keep that up for like, if they keep that consistency up, like I want the cards to do stuff when they enter. Like it's cool.
Yeah, no, that
Not
stuff's-
expecting like Yu-Gi-Oh holograms or something, but like give
Like,
me a
just
give me
little-
a little taste.
little flourishes, which is a thing they've copped from Hearthstone mostly.
Yeah, no, I figured, but like
the other
Cast
thing I will-
Bolas.
I'll say about the way they display the cards, where it's mostly just like the rectangle of the art, and then
Yeah.
little bit of information around it has been interesting. There are people who just don't like that, but
Oh, yeah,
I think they
that's-
had to do it that way. You have to have it the way that's
There's-
the easiest to display, so that as a
Yeah.
viewing experience is like totally makes sense. The weird thing is, one of the weird thing is the reason that they cards tap the way they do, where they just turn slightly and then like they disappear with a tap symbol. I saw a stream they did where they talked about why they decided that, and the weird thing is when they tried turning the card sideways, it looked super wrong because the proportions when it was that way made it look
Oh.
more like an untapped regular Magic card.
Gotcha.
So like
Yeah.
just a thing in people's brains who have played a lot of Magic just saw it as instantly wrong because
Yeah.
because just of that shape is so ingrained in people's heads.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that. That was a thing. Like people were like, "Can we please just have now that the NDA is over? Can we please just have the lands tap all the way?" And I'm like, it's pretty fucking clear. They're tilted. They're grayed out. They have the or they have like the symbol on
Tap
them.
symbol. Yeah.
Like it's pretty clear that it's not open.
No, and they did a whole stream where they outlined why they did that, and there was totally people in Twitch chat when those come out. They're like, "Yes, that's how it should look," and you're like, "That nope."
Nope, just terrible.
Because if they wanted to do it, it would by the way the game is made, it would actually be an easy change. It's just that's not going to happen because be crazy.
No, I generally like it. I've noticed sometimes that mousing over stuff, like I want to read a card and I'm mousing over it and I have to like find that little sweet spot because it doesn't always go. But
I
other
found
than
that
that, it's been fine.
Yeah, the biggest problem is when you're searching your library, which usually is for a basic land.
Yeah.
Like the ones on the edge don't click very well, and it's annoying. Like I want to find a plains, all my swamps appear. So
Yep.
like scroll over to one plains. But those are minor nitpicks.
I like the visualization of some. I guess the only one I can really think of solidly that I've encountered is flying, like how you have the card very clearly like hovering. That, and then I know it happened for Exert with like the chains,
Yeah.
like that sort of thing is cool.
Yeah, Exert has a weird issue where like where you click on the card
Yep, that
decides
happened
if
to
you're
me.
gonna exert or nice or not.
Yeah, so
Like
exerting basically is like some creatures have a thing where when they attack, you have to tap them. And if you exert them, they do something extra, but they don't untap on your next step. And I learned the hard way that if you want to exert them when you attack, you click on the right side of the card. There's like two arrows, and
yeah,
I
it basically
just...
brings up two little things, but if you click too fast because you don't know that.
No, I guess I think I just assumed that it would be like a declare attack, and then
Yeah, it
like
would
a
ask
thing,
you.
Yeah, like it'd pop up, and it definitely didn't do that. So that was
No,
a one and
does-
done mistake.
Does not ask. There is no asking.
Yeah, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's
there's also there's convenient stuff like if a card is playable from your graveyard, it'll put it in your hands, but like next to your hand.
yeah, and it also lets your opponent see that as well, so you don't
Yeah.
have to like search every turn.
They just recently did a thing so that if you've revealed one of your opponent's cards, it stays revealed if it's still in their
Yes,
hand.
that's so good. Or like on the top of their library as well,
Yeah.
which is very nice.
So unless that thing gets moved, shuffled around or whatever, and you don't know it's there anymore, it will stay there, which is hella convenient. Because if you want to do that in real life, you gotta like take notes.
Yeah, no, I've seen exactly one person who was like downvoted to oblivion was bitching about it a little bit. Like, they should keep shit revealed wherever. It's not like that in real life. Like, of course it's not like that in real life. Like, but you can't, it makes sense in this form. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So
It's an
that's,
easy thing to do. Like it's not hard.
I think
So there's no reason to not do it.
it might, I don't know. I don't want to say that it increases the power level, but like stuff like duress or something where the opponent reveals their hand, it's looking a lot nicer now. Like I can just see your hand constantly instead of like,
It's-
yep, you have things I'm going to forget in 3 turns.
It's just stuff about lowering this. It does lower the skill floor of the game, but that's
Yeah, but
fine.
not-
That's like, who
no,
cares?
I'd much rather have more people like, yeah.
Yeah, again, those
And
are
it
those
doesn't-
are the hardcore players complain about that sort of thing of skill floor lowering because like I had to learn it this way. Are you kids?
Whatever. You had to learn with mana burn. Just fuck off. You and your
I did.
rules
I
that
did
can
have to
change
learn
in
with
an
mana.
instant.
I did have to learn with mana burn.
Yeah.
It wasn't that big a deal when it went away. Honestly, it was like, oh yeah, that's convenient and makes more sense when you're trying to teach people the game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, some cards are just better now.
Yeah.
But
Yep. No, it's a very solid. It's a very solid game, and I have high hopes for it. And it plays super well. And
yeah, it plays super well. Is the big thing.
that's a giant thing. Like I hope the
'Cause-
economy gets fixed, but
Yeah.
if like that's even for me, that's like a second. I hope draft is good, and if the draft
Yeah.
is good, I care far less about economy because I just want to draft.
That's true.
From the-
I completely agree with that.
And like, could I go down to the game store and draft on Fridays and like see some friends and do whatever? Yeah, sure. But also, I could be sitting in my pajamas at home with a drink and some chips, listening to my music.
Yo, I love drafting at home. It's so nice.
Yep. It's all the fun of drafting without worrying about the
Now, if I could
whatever.
draft and not like be spending $15 every time I want to draft or whatever, that would be even nicer.
Yep. Yeah.
Which is really my hope for Arena. Because again, I can and I will in the future draft on MTGO. That is a thing that will happen because I still have packs on there.
Use them if you got them.
Exactly. But I think that's going to be a podcast. We've gone for over an hour.
We have.
So we will not talk about the other Magic topics we could have. Those will be saved for a future episode. So we're not done talking about Magic, but we're done talking about Magic for now. Next week we'll do something else.
Yeah. I don't think Dominaria or Brawl have enough for like one full episode. That would derail. I feel like
No.
derail into
Whatever.
Magic talk, but
Whatever. When Dominaria launches, that might be enough or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. That's a podcast.
Yeah, but I would do the outro, but I don't know any of our info. So
Cool. You can email us at saltcirclepodcast@gmail.com. Find us on soundcloud.com/saltcircle and on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, and other various podcast sources as Salt Circle Podcast. And we're on Twitter at SaltCirclePod. And I'm on Twitter at Comic Panels.
I'm on Twitter at bean_LP. Hit us up if you want to play some Magic, play on Tabletop Sim. If you already own the game, it's free. If you don't own the game, you just need to own the game, and we'll show you how to roll.
Yeah,
a good
it's
time.
basically like playing with proxies. It's
All
super
cards.
fun and not expensive at all.
It really is.
Peace.